action step.
Change is won, it's not a given. If you will change, everything will change for you. Change is an action.
Welcome to More Than Motivation. It's Monday. Clint here with Change One. Today I want to talk about believing in yourself. And I want to start out with this example of Helen Keller. So many of you are probably familiar with the story of Helen Keller. If you're not, she was deaf, dumb, and blind. She couldn't hear, she couldn't see, and she couldn't talk. And yet her story still goes on today. And so her story started with a belief in herself. She was in a world, now imagine this situation, she is physically handicapped, but since she can't communicate, how do people tell if she's mentally or physically handicapped? It probably took a while to figure this out, but she had a caretaker who took care of her. And Helen Keller, of course, had a couple of options in life. In this world that she lived in, which is mostly her mind, because she was normal in mind, she had a sound mind, she had an option to rally against the world. And you know, you see people who are handicapped mentally or physically who rally against the world. They're angry, they throw tantrums, they throw things against the wall, especially as children. And you know, so often we do that. We rail against the world. This outside world of Helen Keller was this caretaker, giving her food, helping her change. And of course, Helen Keller could have acted out, and I'm sure she did at times. Or she could have thought and said, hey, look, this outside world that's exerting an influence on me maybe has something for me. I'm going to believe in myself that I can do something in relation to this outside world. And that's us, right? Like, we're sitting there in our lives, and we have an opportunity to believe in ourselves that we can influence the outside world, that this outside world that's going on around us, we can have an impact on it. But we have to choose to believe that. We can accomplish the things we want in this outside world. So here she is, and when she began to believe in herself, Helen Keller, just that belief in herself, her caretaker was like, wow, this girl is trying to learn here. I'm going to believe in her too. And her caretaker taught her to communicate with her, to the point where Helen Keller's caretaker knew what she was saying, knew what she wanted, and they could communicate, to the point where Helen Keller was able to write books through her caretaker. Wild, and that's why her story goes on today. And it all started with a little belief in herself. And that's us. In the world that we go in, there's these outside forces, and they want to believe in us. They do. But do we believe in ourselves? And until we begin to believe in ourselves, it's hard for those outside forces to believe in us. And so another thing I want to go over about that is sometimes we face challenges when it comes to believing in ourselves. And those challenges make it harder to believe in ourselves. And some of those challenges are, you know, we say, oh, I don't have money, I'm not smart. Or you say, oh, I have too much going on, I'm too busy, you know, maybe because you were born into money and you have all this responsibility. Or you say, you know, I wasn't born in the right family, I didn't go to the right school. I mean, we could go on and on with the excuses, right, of why we don't believe in ourselves. But when we take all those excuses, just throw them away, say it's garbage. Because I can tell you people who didn't have education. I can tell you people who were born with money who became successful. I can tell you people who were born without money who became successful. When we start to throw those things away and say that none of that stuff matters, we can focus on what's at hand. How do we believe in ourselves? Well, one of those things is, of course, look at yourself in the mirror and say, what do I think of myself? And if those are negative thoughts, change them. I do believe that positive affirmations work. I'm not saying that you can feed yourself by thinking positive, but I'm saying that you can change the way you think by speaking positive in your own life. Saying, hey, I am smart. I can learn. It's okay to speak positively into your own life. It's good for you. One of the other things is that if you want to change, I always look at action-reaction. It'll help you understand the world better. For every action, there's a reaction. Look at the world in those terms. Look, every time that you're negative towards somebody else and their beliefs, their dreams, their desires, you're negative towards that, it's going to come out in your own life. The reaction is you're going to be negative towards yourself. You're not going to believe in yourself. So if you want to believe in yourself more, then simply start to believe in others. When you hear somebody says, I want to do something, encourage them. Because that action will spawn a reaction of you beginning to speak positively into your own life as well. And when you start to understand that, that's a very simple way that you can change that. If you're a negative person towards other people's goals, dreams, desires, then that's a problem. You don't want to be like that. It's going to be hard to believe in yourself. So use that action-reaction principle. Don't just use it for this. Apply it to your life. Because it helps you find out, you know, if I do this, what happens? And maybe if this is hard, maybe I could do this and it'll work backwards. And in this situation, it does. You'll see if you start being that positive person in other people's lives, you'll have more positive people speaking into your life. Because every person that you speak positively about will speak positively about you. And everybody you speak negatively about will speak negatively about you. And not only that, every time negative words come out of your mouth, negative thoughts are in your head. Every time positive words come out of your mouth, positive thoughts are in your head. That's a very simple way to change the way you believe in yourself. Here's an interesting story. Michael Jordan, I love this quote. He says, "In my life, I missed over 9,000 shots. I lost over 300 games, and I missed over 26 game-winning shots." So that's cool because Michael Jordan went on to say, "I failed over and over and over, and that's the reason I succeeded." In 8th grade, he was cut from the basketball team, and yet he went on to be one of the best basketball players ever. At any point, he could have chose not to believe in himself anymore. When he was cut, when he missed shots, at any point, but instead he said, "No, I'm going to continue to believe in myself. Despite the negative things that happen, I'm going to believe in myself." So all these things happen to us, and we have a choice of whether or not to believe. Another basketball story is very interesting. Muggsy Bogues. Some of you don't know who he is. He was a basketball player in the 90s. Muggsy's a great example. What makes him unique, he was 5 foot 3 inches tall. Who would have told a guy at 5 foot 3 inches tall he was going to play professional basketball when the average height in the NBA was 6 foot 7 inches? Nobody. Who was going to encourage this guy to go try to make the NBA? But he did it, and he started. He was a good player. Against probably everybody said, "Muggsy, come on, man. Like, you know, you're 5 foot 3. You're not going to grow anymore. You got to give this up." And he said, "No, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing." And he went on to do it. What an amazing story. So as we go through our lives and we have all these challenges that we face, don't let age be an excuse. Don't let time be an excuse. And don't let other people speak negatively into your life. An interesting thing that happened to me when I was 19, I wanted to play professional soccer. I went to a guy who was a doctor. I looked at him maybe as a mentor. I said, "Hey, what can I do to increase my skill to make this dream a reality of playing professional soccer?" He said, "You're 19 years old. You know, you've passed the age of learning. The skills you have now are what you're going to have." And I just said, "Hey, you don't know anything, man. I'm out of here." And I left. And it wasn't a brash decision. I didn't want that negativity in my life. He didn't say it to bring me down. It's what he really believed. But I went on the next year, trained for a whole year, got professional tryouts, made a team. I didn't end up playing for that team because of personal reasons, but a few years ago I played for a professional team in Canada. So I ended up achieving that dream. And if I had listened to that negativity, I would have never accomplished that. You know, so in our lives, whatever it is that we have or don't have, whether we have disabilities like Helen Keller, whether we get cut by a coach like Michael Jordan, whether we just have people speak into our lives who don't mean to say it negatively, but just really believe that we can't accomplish something like I did with my coach, or whether we have people who are intentionally being negative that we need to get away from. We can overcome those things. A big thing I always hear is age, and I want to share this with you before I go. This is my final thoughts, that you're going to know some of the people on this list. This is really cool. These men and women, all over 40, accomplished amazing things. First one, Benjamin Franklin. He didn't invent the lightning rod until he was 41 years old. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, didn't found his first Walmart until he was 44. Henry Ford created the Model T at 45 years old. Imagine this, their lives, everything they've done in their life up to this point. They could have said all these excuses. I'm not this, I'm not that, I don't have this, I don't have the education. You know, Henry Ford had a 3rd grade education. Instead of using any of that as excuses, they said, today is the day that the light bulb goes on in my head and I change my life and I believe in myself and I'm going to do this. So it doesn't matter if you're 14 or 50. Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's, started his first McDonald's at 52 years old. Here's an awesome woman. Mary Kay Ash, the founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics, started at 45 years old. What's my point? My point is no matter where you're at in life, if you believe in yourself, that's how you change one.
Positive change is the result of intentional action.